Hello friends, welcome to IS Help Desk. So as we have started the prelims revision series focusing on this 4th October 2020 prelims, this is the second video on art and culture where we are focused for giving the factual and conceptual clarity about the concept in a very time bound manner. Also, since there are lots of facts involved, then we have decided our videos to divide it into a various parts so that it will be easier for you to learn and revise. Also, we are providing a PDF of these videos, and you can visit our website to download those PDFs. So, let's start about art and culture, and this is the part 2 where we'll be reading about the religion and philosophy. In this video, we'll mainly focus on religion part, and let's see some of the previous year questions to have some clues and ideas that where we have to focus while reading this topic. So the first question is about definition of Buddha. The question asks, it gives hints that there is a definition of Buddha, spreading the path of bodhisattvas. See the term bodhisattvas that's mentioned, and then image worship and rituals. So which of the above is or are features of Mahayana Buddhism? So these are the terms which will be reading in religion part. So the religion becomes important. How much important we'll see that how much depth they used to cover, how much deep the concept we need to cover, and this is the question of 2019. Also, there is a question related to bodhisattva again in 2016 where they ask the concept of bodhisattvas and Hinayana sect of Buddhism. Again, this is related to religion. So again, there we have question of nirvana in Buddhism, nirvana. So as we can see, there are enough sufficient number of questions that has been asked by UPSC to read and to make this concept important. So now let's see what is religion. In short, religion and human being relation to which they regard as holy, sacred, absolute, and divine, or you can say even worthy of special reverence. So it is a commonly regarded as consisting of the way of people deal with ultimate concerns about their life and death, and this concept can be tracked to the times of Harappa also, where sufficient evidence of worshipping the natural forces have been found. So, in a very simple सेंटेंस वी कैन से रिलीजन जिसको हम हिंदी में धर्म कहते हैं, ये हमारे जीवन जीने का एक तरीका, किस तरह से हम जिए. फॉर एग्जांपल जैनिज्म, जो लोग जैनिज्म एक धर्म है जिस तरह वो फॉलो करते हैं, जैनिज्म में वो लोग मानते हैं कि वो किसी भी तरह के लिविंग बीइंग को वो हर्ट नहीं करेंगे. तो ये एक तरीका है जो वो फॉलो करते हैं अपने जीवन में. Religion, in different religion we have different type of lifestyles, we have different ethics, we have not very much different, but yes, they vary from different religion, but at the end they always reach to same end, to same goal. So we can say it's a way of life, it's a sacred way of life, it's a divine way of life which teaches us how and how to exist and how to relate to humanity. So now if we see the evolution of religion, then it is evident from the time of Harappan civilization, and so it is called as pre-Vedic or early Vedic religion because it was the time before the religion and its proper ways came into existence. So basically the time before 1500 CE is called as pre-Vedic time period, and after 1500 CE to 800 CE it is called as Vedic period, as this was the time during which a noticeable establishment of religion along with its various scriptures took place. Also, the Aryans migrated to India during this time period and led to major changes in the socio-cultural ways of life. Again, this was the time when people started worshipping to the idols along with the worship of natural forces, and many new forms of gods and goddesses came into form and existence, and hence the charms and the mantras, the hymns, etc. got created. So this was during the later phase of. Right now we are talking about pre-Vedic, that is religion during the Harappan civilization. People used to worship this ling and yoni, and also there is no evidence of temples during Harappan civilization and no any sculpture or scripture, nothing, no, nothing has been found yet. So yes, but definitely we find a statue of mother goddess. So through this we know that they used to worship the female divine power. And then if we talk about the religion during the Rigvedic period, that is in the Vedic period, then we'll see that they continued the worshipping of natural forces like sun and the moon. Also, they believed in many gods like Indra, who was known as the god of rain, Varun, who was the god of sky, Agni, the god of fire, Surya, the god of light, and Rudra, the god of death. There were the rituals of sacrifices, and other rituals like offering food and drink were also evident. So religion in the early Vedic period, it revolved around the crude forms of worshipping, which basically includes nature worship. And by this, we mean that people in the early Vedic period worshipped different forms of nature as God, like sun, as mentioned right now, that sun, earth, moon, wind, rain, and other natural phenomena. So, since there was no scientific explanations for natural phenomena like rain and thunder, people feared them and thus worshipped them. Also, chanting of prayers and hymns were a common practice to invoke the gods, and it was a normal phenomena to sacrifice animals in the name of religion. So here mention some of the gods which were considered as important gods during this period, and also UPSC has asked several questions from this section. So let's go through it shortly. Indra, who is considered as a lord of rain, Agni, Varun, Soma was a kind of juice which was extracted from fruits and plants. So and it was offered to God. So as we can see in these names, we can find that there are female gods also, goddesses also, like Savitri and Aditi. Savitri, on which the Gayatri mantra is dedicated. Aditi was the god of eternity, and Gandharva was represented as divine musician. And so, religion in later Vedic period, it saw the increase in powers of the priests, and they formed the highest class in the society. Religious practices were refined, and worshipping of God in the form of idols gained importance during this later Vedic period. And also, the animal sacrifices also increased during this period. And so, it is said that the rigidities of the caste system in the Hinduism and the abuse of power by the Brahmin priest was a prominent cause of origination of Buddhism. So now let's read about Buddhism and its concepts. So also Buddhism has been a favorite topic for UPSC to frame at least one question in the preliminary examination every year. And here we will look to understand the basic concepts, terms and philosophy related to Buddhism that will enable us to answer those questions. So Siddharth, which was the family name of Gautam Buddha, was the founder of Buddhism. Also, he was given the title of Buddha, which means one who has woken up to the reality, that is enlightened one. So rather than a single person, Buddha is a title that can be given to anyone who is enlightened. Since Siddharth was the first to attain it, according to Buddhist, he is called as the Supreme Buddha. So Buddha led the life of a preacher, and he delivered his first sermon at Sarnath near Banaras, which is in Uttar Pradesh. So, as we can see that many big patrons became the followers of Buddhism, and the kings like Prasenjit, Bimbisar, and Ajat Shatru are the known ones. Again, this is one of the most important section related to Buddhism where UPSC has asked several questions several times, and it is related to the symbols of great events which is related to life of Buddha. And this is lotus and bull, which relates to the birth of Buddha. Then the horse, which signifies the great departure of Buddha. Then the Bodhi tree, which signifies the enlightenment of Buddha, and then the wheel, which signifies the first sermon delivered by Buddha, and then finally the stupa, which signifies his death. That means the blowing away or departure of soul from the body. Let me tell you the meaning of Dharma Chakra Parivartana first, and then we'll move on to the Four Noble Truths. So, as we read that Buddha gave his first sermon in the village of Sarnath, which is near the city of Banaras in UP. So, this event is known as Dharma Chakra Parivartan, which is known as turning of the wheel of law. This question has been asked in UPSC again several times. So now the four noble uh, truths and eightfold paths which has been said by the Buddha is the truth of suffering or sorrow. That means no matter how much we struggle, we are able to find the ultimate happiness or satisfaction. And suffering, that is the common bond we share. Therefore, suffering is the real truth of our existence. And then next is desire. The truth about the cause of suffering, cravings, desires, and ignorance about reality are the cause of our suffering, are the cause of our sorrow. The truth about end of suffering, that is, if desire is eliminated, then only the suffering would stop. This stage when all desires are burned is called as nirvana in Buddhism. Then path for ending the suffering is called as the eightfold path, and it emphasizes on a middle path between worldly pleasures and the painful asceticism. And here are the eightfold paths which Buddhism teaches, and it says about right understanding, right thought, right speech, right conduct, and right means of making a life, right mental attitude or effort, that means you should put right effort in right direction, and then right mindfulness and right concentration. Okay, now let me give you some clarity on the issue of God, soul, and transmigration. So, does Buddhism believe in God? Do they believe that living beings have a soul? Again, this is the favorite part of UPSC, where it often forms statements on the basis of these facts. Well, the answer of all these question is no. Buddhism does not believe in God, and it neither believes in soul. Their views is that life is transient and changing. And where change prevails, something like permanent soul would have no meaning, right? Similarly, rather than believing in God, Buddhism focuses on moral progress independent God. Buddha believed that religious ideas, and especially the God idea, have their origin in fear. However, Buddhism has been said to accept the theory of transmigration, but Buddhists refute to accept transmigration as understood in the concept of transmigration of soul. What they believe is rebirth and not exactly the transmigration. So, Buddhism believes in rebirth. Now, let me give you a brief about Buddhist literature, because a detailed version of all these things you can get it from PDF, as I mentioned earlier. Also, you can get in from our website. So, Tripitakas, which means that three baskets, and these are the Buddhist literary texts which are known as Tripitakas, and it comprises the three main categories of texts that make up the Buddhist canon. Then the first is Sutta Pitaka, which is a collection of sermons of the Buddha. Then we have Vinaya Pitaka, and this contains the rules of communal life for monks and nuns. Then we have Abhidhamma Pitaka. This contains the interpretations and analysis of Buddhist concepts. Okay, now let's see some of the terminologies associated with Buddhism. So, first comes Nirvana, which means uh, getting rid from the cycle of death and birth. And Buddha describes Nirvana as the perfect peace of the state of mind that is free from craving, anger, and other afflicting states. And then we have Jatakas. So, Jatakas can be regarded as a body of literature that consists of various narratives of the life of Gautam Buddha, taking birth in both human and animal forms. So, the narratives describe him as being born in elephant, a king, an outcast, etc. But overall, the motive behind each narrative is to highlight the moral values that he propagated in each of these characters. And the narratives find huge popularity among children owing to the narration of the stories and the moral education that they have to impart. And then we have Buddha Charita, which is a Sanskrit work by Ashwaghosha, and it was compiled by Dharmaraksha. Then we have Bodhi Vamsa, which is a mixture of Sanskrit and Pali text, and it was composed by Upatissa, which describes the arrival of Bodhi tree in Sri Lanka. And the next term is Bodhisattva. So it denotes the person who seeks awakening, that is Bodhi, and that means an individual on the path to becoming a Buddha. So a Bodhisattva is an ordinary person who takes up a course in his or her life that moves in the direction of Buddha. You are a Bodhisattva, even I am a Bodhisattva. Actually, anyone who directs their attention, their life to practicing the way of life of Buddha is a Bodhisattva. And the Mahayana form of Buddhism has conceived them as having renounced the ultimate state out of pure compassion towards all beings, and can therefore refers to anyone en route. In non-Mahayana Buddhism, it usually refers either to Maitreya, the Buddha of the future, or to the historical Buddha, that is Gautam Buddha, prior to his enlightenment. And then we have mandala, which is a schematized painting used for spiritual teaching and meditational focus. And then the term Maitreya, which means, according to Buddhism, it is the future Buddha. He will be a bodhisattva whose primary work will be to achieve absolute enlightenment and spread the knowledge of pure dharma. Therefore, we can say that according to Buddhist text, Maitreya will be the successor of Gautam Buddha. In the entire Buddhist canonical text, if you see, then there is a reference to the prophecy about Maitreya is to be found. Almost all the Buddhist followers believe that this prediction will definitely come true. And in the Sanskrit canon, Maitreya Kara, it is said that humans and even God will worship Maitreya as a teacher of Tantra. So the name Maitreya, it literally means loving kindness. And the next is the term samsara. So it is a commonly translated as cyclic existence or cycle of existence. And it is said that it is a continual repetitive cycle of birth and death that arises from ordinary beings grasping and fixating on a self and experiences. Okay, now let's see the division of Buddhism. So Buddhism is divided under three types of followers we find under Buddhism. First is Hinayana, which is the orthodox or we can say conservative school of Buddhism. Hinayana form of Buddhism is also known as lesser vehicle, and they interpreted Buddha's teaching literally and strictly, emphasizing on strict personal meditation and the monastic path to enlightenment. And it is the dominant form of religion in Cambodia, Laos, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Burma. Then we have Mahayana form of Buddhism, which is also known as greater vehicle, and they interpreted Buddha's teaching logically and liberally, trying to understand the true meaning of Buddha's teaching. Here in Mahayana form of Buddhism, the important thing to be noted is Mahayana followers believes in idol worship, which is not being believed by the Hinayana form of Buddhism. And then we also have the Vajrayana form of Buddhism, which is believed to be the tantric form of Buddhism. So here, let me give you some clarity about the concept we just now read about the lesser and the greater vehicle, that is the Mahayana and the Hinayana form of Buddhism. So the word vehicle is used here to describe the Buddha's teaching, and since the ultimate purpose of the teachings is to carry people from the shore of this impure world to the other shore of enlightenment. So a great vehicle is like a large ship, we can say, that can carry many people over the ocean, and a lesser vehicle is like a little boat, if you assume like this, that can carry only few people. So Mahayana, which promises spiritual liberation to both monks and ordinary people, is called as greater vehicle because it can help a large number of people in attaining enlightenment. On the other hand, Hinayana, which is called as the lesser vehicle, calls for strict discipline, and this cannot be practiced by ordinary people and can only carry few people towards the enlightenment. Let me tell you one more thing here, that here lesser and greater are not to be understood. You should not understand it like in the terms of inferior and superior. And now here we have mentioned some of the differences between the Hinayana and the Mahayana form of Buddhism, which is also provided in the PDF, so you can download it from our website. Okay, now let's see this part about Buddhist shrines, and the questions have been asked by UPSC related to these shrines, and these are called as Mahasthanas, that means 8 great holy places, and these are related to various events in Buddha's life, that is Lumbini, which is related to the birth of Buddha, Bodh Gaya, it is related to the enlightenment of Buddha, and likewise Sarnath, where he delivered his first sermon, and Kushinagar, where he attained the Mahaparinirvana. Also, along with these places, Shravasti, Rajgir, Vaishali, and Sankasya are also among the Ashtmahasthanas. And here are some religious places related to the Buddhism religion, and these are important as various questions have been asked from this section also. Okay, now let's read about Jainism. So, Jainism is an ancient religion from India that teaches that the way to liberation and bliss is to live lives of harmlessness and renunciation. So, we can say that the essence of Jainism is concern for the welfare of every being in the universe and for the health of the universe itself. According to the Jains, the origin of Jainism goes back to very ancient times, and they believe in 24 Tirthankaras, or you can say the great teachers or leaders of their religion. So the first Tirthankara is believed to be the Rishabdev, who was born in Ayodhya. Also, the 23rd Tirthankara was Parashvanath, who was born in Varanasi, and he gave up the royal life and he became an ascetic. And this is the information why I'm telling you, because there are questions which has been asked by UPSC related to the 23rd Tirthankaras and the 24th one. Who is the who is the last, and who is the first Tirthankara? So Mahavira was the 24th and last Tirthankara. The name of two Jain Tirthankaras, that is Rishabdev and Arishtanemi, these two names are found in the Rig Veda also. Now let me give you a short brief about the 24th Tirthankara, that is Mahavira. So Vardhaman Mahavira is regarded as the founder of Jainism, and he was the 24th of the Tirthankara and the last of it also. So Vardhaman Mahavira, he was born in 540 BC in a village that was called as Kundagram near Vaishali, and his father Siddharth was the head of the Jantrika clan, which is a Kshatriya clan, and his mother Trishala was the sister of Lichavi chief Chetaka, whose daughter was Chelina and was wedded to Bimbisar. So here you can see the connection to the Bimbisar family. Thus, Mahavira's family, we can say, was connected to the royal patronage or royal family of Magadha. So Mahavir was married to Yashoda, and by whom he had a daughter called Anoja. And in the beginning, Mahavira led the family life of a householder, and but later, in search of truth and the real existence of his life, he abandoned his family life at the age of 30 and he became an ascetic. So here are the three jewels of Jainism, which says that the aim of Jain life is to achieve liberation of the soul, and this is done by following the Jain ethical code, or to put it simply, living rightly by following the three jewels of Jain ethics. And three jewels, or we can say it is also called as Tri Ratna, as a metaphor for describing conduct and knowledge. So the first is right faith, which is perception, or you can say Samyak Darshana. It is also known as Samyak Darshana. And the next is right knowledge, which is called as Samyak Jnana. And the next is right conduct, which is called as Samyak Charitra. And now if we talk about the principles of Jainism as preached by Mahavira, that is the teachings of Mahavira, then Mahavira rejected the authority of the Vedas and the Vedic rituals and the Brahmin supremacy also. So Jainism mainly aims at the attainment of freedom from the worldly bonds, and it is not necessary to use any ritual for acquiring such liberation. So it can be obtained through right knowledge, right faith, and right conduct. That is the three jewels. Jainism does not accept the authority of Veda, so it is a atheistic philosophy, you can say. Then they did not believe in the existence of God, and they believed in karma and the transmigration of soul. So Jainism believed that the main goal of human life is the purification of soul and attainment of nirvana, that is moksha, and which means freedom from birth and death. And now, if we see the division under Jainism, then it can be divided into the Shvetambaras, that is the white clad, and the Digambaras. So, Shvetambaras, that means the white clad, is a term which describes its ascetic practice of wearing white clothes, and they follow only four vows except the Brahmacharya. Then the Shvetambaras division, they believe in women, liberation of women, that is, women can also achieve the liberation. Then here, the most important point is Thulabhadra was an exponent of this sect. Then comes the Digambaras. So the monks of this sect believe in complete nudity, and male monks do not wear clothes, while female monks wear the unstitched plain white saris. And the followers of Digambaras follow all the five vows, that is Satya, Ahimsa, Asteya, Aparigraha, and Brahmacharya. So here Brahmacharya has been followed, which is not followed by the Shvetambaras. Also, Bhadrabahu was an exponent of this Digambara sect. So here again you have to remember this name Bhadrabahu and Sthulabhadra, which was an exponent of Shvetambara sect. And here again, the important thing about the UPSC preliminary, we have to focus here for Jain Council. And the first Jain Council was held at Patliputra under the leadership of Sthulabahu, and in the beginning of the 3rd century BC. And the point here which I would like to highlight is the Digambaras boycotted the council and refused to accept its decision. Then the second Jain council, which was held at Vallabhi in Gujarat, it was under the leadership of Devardhi, and it resulted in the final compilation of the 12 Angas and 12 Up-Angas. Now, if we talk about the royal patrons of Jainism, then it did enjoy the royal patronage, and it spread to Kalinga in Odisha in the 4th century, and it enjoyed the patronage of Kalinga king Kharavela. Then from the 5th century AD onwards, many royal dynasties of South India also, such as the Gangas, the Kadambas, the Chalukyas, and the Rashtrakutas patronized Jainism. And then the Chalukya king of Solanki, Siddharaja, also known as Jayasimha, professed Jainism. And then if we see the Jain literature, then it was written in Ardh Magadhi, which is a form of Prakrit. And the texts were finally compiled in in Gujarat at a place which was called as Vallabhi. And the adoption of this Prakrit by the Jainas, it helped the growth of the language and its literature. Now, let me give you a brief about Salekhana, which is a very much important concept as well as term in Jainism. So, this concept has been in use since 2006 because a Jaipur-based lawyer, he filed a petition and he sought directions under Article 226 to the central and the state government to treat Santhara, that means the fast unto death, this practice of fast unto death, which is done by the Shvetambara Jains, as illegal and punishable under the law of land. So basically what happened is this respected lawyer, उन्होंने एक petition file किया और उन्होंने कहा कि ये संथारा, ये जो practice है जिसमें एक इंसान अपनी इच्छा से मृत्यु की तरफ बढ़ता है, अपनी इच्छा से मृत्यु को प्राप्त करता है, इस एक्ट को इलीगल और पनिशेबल बताया जाए. See, he filed a petition for this, and for this he gave the backing of Article 25, which says there is a freedom of conscience and profession, practice and propagation of religion. Also, it is violating this, the practice of Santhara is violating the right of life guaranteed under Article 21. So he argued that religious freedom is subject to public order, morality and health. So basically, Santhara or Salekhana, it can be simply termed as Ichha Mrityu. That means embracing death on my own wish. And ये तब किया जाता है जब किसी इंसान को लगता है कि अब उसकी मृत्यु बहुत नज़दीक है और अब उसे टाला नहीं जा सकता है, चाहे वो ज़्यादा उम्र होने की वजह से हो, या फिर कोई ना ठीक होने वाली बीमारी की वजह से हो, या फिर किसी फेमाइन की वजह से हो. सो दे कैन बी मेनी रीजंस जिसकी वजह से वो ये डिसाइड करे कि अब मुझे अपनी मर्जी से मैं मृत्यु प्राप्त करना चाहता हूँ. और ये बेसिकली इसको करने का जो तरीका है वो एक्सट्रीम फास्ट इसमें किया जाता है, जिसमें खाना और पानी दोनों छोड़ दिया जाता है. And now here we have given some comparison between Jainism and Buddhism. I'll give you a brief of it, and for detailed version you can get the PDF. And here Jainism recognized the existence of God while Buddhism did not. Also, Jainism did not condemn the Varna system while Buddhism does. Also, Jainism believed in the transmigration of soul, that is reincarnation, while Buddhism did not believe in this transmigration of soul. And Buddhism prescribes a middle path, while Jainism, it advocates its followers to live the life of complete austerity. So friends, this was our today's video on religion, and there is a separate video for the section of philosophy, which is also very much important, and we have uploaded the PDF version of our every video on our website. So feel free to reach us, and for immediate response, please join our WhatsApp group. Thank you so much for your time and patience.